dude running around with his pajamas on. I had the same suit, I think. I got that from, like, Sears, and it was my pajamas. And I remember Spider-Man, it was just so cheesy. Right up there was Superman. And do you remember Greatest American Hero? Did you ever see that show?
I do. I do remember with the curly hair. I can't remember who portrayed him.
All those shows on TV. And the other time I was introduced to Spider-Man, I used to watch him on this TV show called The Electric Company. And one of the episodes with Spider-Man was he had to fight the abominable snowman. And if you guys could picture, this set looked like something out of a high school play, is how they would set up this thing. And how Spider-Man got the abominable snowman and got him away from everybody is he put ice cream cones on the sidewalk, and he would stand them up with the cone and the ice cream on top of it. And the abominable snowman needed to cool himself off, so he would go and sit on the cones. And he did it like a row, like you would think of Skittles with E.T., and the abominable snowman was coming down, and he was sitting on cones as he kept going down the sidewalk. And then Spider-Man jumped out and was like shot him with a web. That I remember to this day. And that was probably in like the 70s, 80s, the Electric Company. And I just remember that Spider-Man episode. And
he never talked. He never talked in Electric Company, I don't believe, did he?
He didn't say nothing. He just, like, everybody would ask him questions, and he did sign language.
He was like a mime. He was like a damn
but again,
mime.
He looked like he was wearing pajamas.
I never really understood that, why, but I guess, maybe they were thinking he has a full bodysuit on. Why would he would just sound muffled if he was talking.
Maybe he did. Maybe it was a different Spider-Man every time. They didn't want to screw around with the voices and finding someone that sounds
the same. True. That's true. I mean, and certainly could have used Stan Lee's voice, maybe.
If Stan Lee even approved this, who knows?
Probably would have wanted a lot of money.
The Electric Company Spider-Man, that was probably such a long time ago, and I'm not even sure that Stan Lee even knew that existed, because I don't think he'd approve the ice cream cone going up your butt crack for the abominable snowman capture, because that...
there is one thing I'll give it to Stan Lee. A lot of creators would be outspoken if their characters, I know, are either being used or the great Alan Moore, who's been accused of being very eccentric and stuff. He created The Watchmen. I don't know if you remember that movie, but it was based off one of the highest selling graphic novels of all time. He would be really vocal about characters being used. I think a lot of it has to do with rights and stuff too, or other characters. They're like, that's not how I would do it, or something. I think the one thing I can say about Stan Lee is I can't remember him ever saying that's not how I would do it, or that's not how I would do it. He was pretty open to whatever interpretation of his characters that came out. I think he was just happy that they were getting cross promotion somewhere. Then a lot of cases, I think he was probably like the old cliche goes, any publicity is good publicity. He's just happy to have his characters out there. I don't really remember him ever saying, I don't like that version of Spider-Man, or I don't like that version of what they did with Fantastic Four. And he probably would have a lot of beef to say about Fantastic Four, considering I've yet to see a good Fantastic Four movie.
That's true.
So he's pretty he was pretty PC and diplomatic, I think, about it. I think he just kind of respected the fact that everybody had different interpretations of his characters, and I hope he was well compensated, at least, even if if it was predominantly Marvel Disney making the money off there. I mean, at least he got money off those cameos. I wasn't aware of his residuals, if any, from the current comic. A lot of those comic book contracts for writers are basically on a per work basis. So you do the work for that issue. It's not like you're getting residuals if that story is turned into a movie. And
Spider-Man on Electric Company was a PBS anyways. Great song.
Yeah.
Spider-Man, where are you coming from, Spider-Man? Nobody knows who you are.
Sounds terrible.
So yeah, no, that definitely does. So
Here he is, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Today's episode, Spidey meets the Spoiler. And let's hope our favorite web slinger hasn't also met his match.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if there was no residuals from that, well, think about this though. If that makes one kid want to go read a Spider-Man comic book, or if they see him in a convenience store and that gives the sale to Spider-Man comic, whether they got any type of residual, I don't know if that would fly on PBS now with the way people are so happy and rights and all that other stuff. I don't even know if public broadcasting is, if you could find a public broadcasting station, but yeah, I think it's just the fact that he's out there and that can spark one kid to read a comic book, and reading in general in this day and age. I mean, a lot of comics have gone digital. I have one friend who, strictly has a subscription where I don't know if it is DC or if it's Marvel related, where he can read whatever he wants digitally. I know another good friend reads all of his books on Kindle, and or they just read on their tablets now. So, but there's nothing like one of Stanley's great quotes is comic books were I'll have to research this again. He's like, give me a comic book in my hand any day, of the week. It was always his thing. He would take that 100 times over than anything else. So there's nothing like reading a comic book.
Think about it. That's probably one of the things that still to this day is very popular with culture is people in comic books.
Yeah.
And I don't think that, even though you think technology would take it over, people still go and trade comic books and go to Comic-Cons and talk about this stuff. And it's, to this day, even though it's more mainstream because of Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat, I think that comic books are there and have never changed. They're still paper. People still collect them. They still read them. They still get into them, and that, I think, is what is cool about what he's done and other people have done for comic books and creating comics. Do you think that Spider-Man was one of his best characters, or what do you think one of his best characters was?
Yeah, we posed this question. It was late before recording it, so we may not get a chance to address it, but if enough people responded, we can, obviously add a addendum to this, but we posted a question to any potential listeners through our Facebook. If they were to say what their greatest influential character that he created, well, what would it be? I think it's hard to probably top Spider-Man as far as he co-created with Steve Ditko. So many great characters for me. I think outside of maybe the X-Men, but a lot of the X-Men that I enjoyed were not necessarily the ones Stan created, but obviously he created the X-Men in general, so you have to give him his due there. Outside of maybe the X-Men, Spider-Man would probably be my, favorite of his creations. I like the Avengers, but I'm being a Justice League man. I don't, the Avengers are always knockoffs of that to me, but Spider-Man was unique. Outside of Batman, Spider-Man had always the greatest rogues gallery of just bizarre characters and ones I liked, villains. I always kind of liked the little bit of secondary ones like the Shocker, Electro, Mysterio. He just had a bizarre range of ones, and I think out of probably after maybe the X-Men.
These guys bad guys?
Yeah, these were all Spider-Man's rogues gallery. The ones you might remember, most fans in general might remember, the ones that kind of made it to the big screen, like Green Goblin and Dr. Octopus, and those are, Rhino, I think, even made it in there, as a cameo in one of them. Those were kind of his main ones, and I think Carnage and Venom, obviously, the movie that just came out not too long ago, that that was a spawn off of Spider-Man.
Did you see
created
Venom?
As a Spider-Man villain. I did. I really liked it. I thought that was one of Sony's best movies. It was better to me than any of the Spider-Mans they did. Did you see it?
No. Did he appear? Did Spider-Man appear in Venom?
Yeah, to spoil, it's not much of a spoiler. I think most people have seen it by now if they wanted to see it. No, he there was rumors like you would be in there, but they didn't. There is a Stan Lee cameo in it. But Spider-Man was missing. They did tease Carnage though in a after credit scene. They tease it was Woody Harrelson actually that will play the psychotic serial killer who actually gets one of the symbiotes that similar species to what inhabits Venom or what is Venom with his character. Yeah, they talk about him being in New York, but they never really reference to Spider-Man at all. Actually, in it, I thought Tom Hardy did a good job. But the movie was entertaining. I liked the second Spider-Man with the Tobey Maguire probably more than anything else, and I still feel like Venom was better than that one.
Huh. I heard Venom was terrible. That's why I didn't go see it.
No,
I'm not a real big fan. I don't know much about the comic book. So when I saw it, I wanted to see it, but I'll probably wait till it comes out on pay-per-view or Netflix.
I don't know who told you that, but it was good. It was definitely
Stan Lee called me and said it was terrible. He said, "Don't go see this movie." I didn't tell you that. Me and Stan Lee are friends. We were buddies. We hung out together and we played poker. And he let me try on some of the suits. And I always liked Captain America. That was my favorite character. But I got to ask you this question: did you ever dress up as
Wolverine / Logan? Was your favorite character?
Well, it is, but I like Captain America the way the suit looks. I could never be Wolverine because I'm bald, so I'd be a bald Wolverine. So I'd be middle-aged Wolverine, which
maybe you could be Colossus.
And I gotta look like a.
But people don't know that he is. Jester is a large hulking comedian who, if you don't laugh at his jokes, he will rip your head off.
Yeah. I'm a huge man. Huge. They have to reinforce the stage. So one of the things I was going to ask you, during Halloween, which one of these characters did you dress up as?
Oh, wow. I don't remember a whole lot of Halloweens, of course, because I'm very old now, Jester. But
I remember Halloween. I'll tell you what I dressed up as. I dressed up as Spider-Man for one of them, and during the time that I dressed up as Spider-Man, I was running through the desert, going to get my brother at his friend's house, and I fell into a cactus, and one of the thorns went through my kneecap area, and I had to go to the emergency center, and they had to remove it. And what I remember after that was I was sitting on a pull cart the rest of the day in my Spider-Man suit, trick-or-treating.
Did you get bit by a spider?
I turned into a wheeled spider. I was rolling on a cart. I couldn't do anything else. I had wheels.
Give me candy.
That was my superpower.
I am handy-capable Spider-Man.
I am the disabled Spider-Man. Yes. Everybody can be Spider-Man. So
is that a PC word? I don't even know.
It goes with that living color. Remember Handicap Man?
Yes.
Remember Handicap Man would come and defend the handicap?
I do.
No.
Yeah,
I was Spider-Man. I started that before it actually became a thing. So
they've ripped off a lot of your ideas, much like
they found out what I did when I was 8. Then I also dressed up like Captain America, and I remember I had that plastic outfit that you shoved yourself into, and you had to wear the most uncomfortable mask that was flat. And there was a part of the eye that was poking me in the side of my nose, in my face the whole night. But I didn't want to take off my mask to get rid of the illusion that I'm Captain America. So I just, toughed it out and wore that. Those are the two characters.
Did you have it? Were you bald then, or did you have? Were you blonde?
Dude, I wasn't bald at the age of 10. You piece of shit. I was blonde haired, had the cool long hair, but at that moment, and this is the funny thing, and having kids, I know what it feels like.